The only Carnotaurus fossil ever found has unlocked something we considered wrong for the longest time. No skeleton like this has ever been found again. The closer scientists look, the stranger the story gets. Why would a large predator evolve arms even smaller than T. rexus? Why would it carry two horns on its skull, a feature no other carnivorous animal, living or extinct, ever had?
Predatory dinosaurs from all around the world had small arms too. They all evolved from earlier dinosaurs that had much longer arms. These dinosaurs came to rely more on their mouths for holding and killing prey. Their heads became more powerful and their arms became smaller.
This is an animal whose anatomy raises more questions than it answers. Every unusual feature on Carnotaurus came from evolutionary pressure. That much is certain. What's far less certain is what that pressure actually was, and it's a question paleontologists still haven't settled. Part of that answer lies in where this animal came from. So let's start there, with a story that begins in total isolation. This creature lived during the Late Cretaceous period, around 72 million years ago in what is now Patagonia. By that time, South America had already been drifting away from the massive southern supercontinent Gondwana and was isolated for a long time. It became its own evolutionary island continent, similar to Australia later on. Creatures living there evolved down their own strange path. Normally, this is where we could describe a whole lineage of species we found in these areas. But there is a problem. No one has ever found a Carnotaurus egg, a hatchling, or even a juvenile. All we have is one single adult skeleton, remarkably complete, but sitting alone in the fossil record. It was found in a place called La Colonia Formation by the paleontologist José Bonaparte in 1984, and that skeleton raises more questions than it answers. Carnotaurus belonged to a group called the Abelisaurids. Their line split off from the rest of the theropod family tree remarkably early. That early split is part of why Carnotaurus had no feathers. Instead, its skin was covered in small, non-overlapping scales with larger feature scales scattered across the body. A detail we know only because a skin impression happened to survive alongside the skeleton. Some researchers have compared this isolated evolutionary path to what Charles Darwin observed in the finches of the Galapagos Islands, a case study in what happens when life develops far from outside competition. And while the skin was unusual, the size of its arms was even stranger. Generation after generation, the Abelisaurids' arms grew smaller. Give the lineage a few more million years, and it is possible the arms would have disappeared altogether. As it stands, Carnotaurus had the smallest arm-to-body ratio of any large predatory dinosaur ever discovered. Then there is the matter of the fingers. Carnotaurus had 4 of them, which is unusual, since most other theropods had only 3. It's easy to assume that the fingers were functionless, along with the shortest arms. But then why develop 4 instead of 3 fingers? Was it leftover machinery from an ancestor that once used its arms and fingers for something specific? Perhaps a species-specific visual signal used between individuals. The honest answer is that scientists remain divided, and this is one of the genuine open debates in paleontology today. What we do know is that whatever the arms were for, they were not built for hunting. And that is worth noting, because Carnotaurus was a substantial animal, over 25 feet long and close to 2 tons. Something made this animal dangerous. And that's where its legs come into play. They were disproportionately large for the size of the body, anatomical traits typically seen in pursuit predators. But the legs of Carnotaurus go a step further. They appear built not just for sustained speed, but for sudden explosive acceleration. Estimates put its top speed near 35 miles per hour, which would make it one of the fastest large theropods known to science. That kind of power needs a source, and the answer lies in the tail. Every non-avian dinosaur had a muscle called the cauda femoralis, which pulled the leg backward with each stride, functioning much like a spring. In Carnotaurus, this muscle was unusually large. But that rigidity came at a cost. Unlike most dinosaurs, which swung their tails to help balance through turns, Carnotaurus likely could not. If its prey cut sharply to one side, the advantage disappeared. This tells us something about where this animal lived. Not dense forest, where quick turns matter, but open, flat terrain where raw speed could be used without needing to corner. The skull completes the picture, and it is unlike almost any other predatory dinosaur on record. It is not long and narrow like a raptor's, and not massive and heavy like a tyrannosaur's. Instead, it is short from front to back and unusually tall, giving Carnotaurus a distinct, almost blunt facial profile. Its eyes face straight forward, suggesting a degree of binocular vision useful for judging distance during a chase. Its sense of smell, based on the size of the olfactory structures inside the skull, appears to have been highly developed. And then, of course, there are the horns, a pair sitting just above the eyes. Again, this is such an interesting feature found in no other known carnivorous animal ever. Which purpose did they have? Here the field splits, much like it does over other long-debated fossil mysteries. Some researchers argue for display, perhaps brightly colored in life to attract mates or intimidate rivals. Others propose the horns were used in contests between individuals. The bone we see today is only the core. In life, these horns were likely sheathed in keratin, the same material that makes up fingernails, meaning their true shape may have looked quite different from the fossil alone. The skull holds one more surprise. Most predators have some flexibility built into the skull, a small amount of give to absorb the movement of struggling prey. Carnotaurus did not. Many of its skull bones were fused solid, particularly around the snout and upper jaw. Its bite force, for an animal of this size, was comparatively modest, but the lower jaw was a different matter. A joint at the midpoint allowed it to flex outward slightly, widening the gape enough to take large bites, or possibly swallow smaller prey whole. And the neck was heavily muscled, suggesting Carnotaurus relied on fast, powerful head strikes to compensate for what the jaws alone could not deliver. By the way, in 2024, another Abelisaurid with the interesting name Coliken inakayali was described from that very same La Colonia formation. For a moment, researchers wondered whether they might have found a second Carnotaurus specimen. As it turned out, it was a close relative but a different genus altogether. That discovery shows the region was rich in Abelisaurids, but it does not change the fact that Carnotaurus itself remains known from just that single fossil. Put together, this was not an animal built to bring down the largest herbivores of its world. It could not have tackled a full-grown titanosaur, and likely never tried. Its target was smaller, faster prey, run down over open ground through sheer acceleration. That does not make it any less formidable. Watching an animal built like this close a 100-foot gap in seconds would have been a genuinely unsettling thing to witness. This is where the honest summary of only one Carnotaurus fossil available leaves us. Some mysteries, it seems, are built to maybe outlast humanity.